Letter from Mayor Muryn regarding downtown recreation area.
I've been pretty consistent in my comments all along on this with regard to this contract. First off, investing $1 million when you know you don't have $30 million to do this seems inappropriate to me. However, if it's 10% of the contract price, and I've heard that more than once, then you're presuming the contract is going to be no less than $10 million, even if it's only a third of the design. I don't find that completely defensible at this moment, being we have no idea how you're going to pay for that. Second, it's clear there are environmental considerations with regard to this project. I want to thank the mayor. We've been working towards getting quotes, proposals to evaluate those environmental considerations. But for your benefit, even Anchor Park across the river from this, which is included in the park design, was a junkyard. It's clear from the Sanborn insurance maps. There is a lot of environmental discussion to happen that was not included in any of the floodway river studies. And Mr. Wilson himself, when I mentioned that to him, said, I have nothing to do with that. I can't comment on that because it's not part of what we're doing. So you're going to have to explore that yourself. I feel very comfortable in the conversations I've had with some experts in environmental projects that I believe we have the cart before the horse. And as your fiscal officer, I, like everybody else, have no desire not to see that cleaned up, not to look, I want that to look nice. Every one of us does. Everybody here wants that to look nice. But my recommendation to you is that you consider pausing, not entering into this contract until you have clarity on the environmental components of this. And if that means tabling it until the mayor and I get a little bit more in depth with the responses that we're going to get based on the $100,000 you appropriated to have a good idea what it's going to cost you, it's wise to do. And that's my recommendation. Pause. It doesn't mean you're not going to do it, but it does mean you want to be prudent with a $1.3 million expenditure that likely will cause you to spend another $2.7 million in design. If that number holds, if nothing else, it'd be significantly more in design. And I think that makes sense. Nothing is lost, nothing is harmed, and you have answers that you did not have to get during phase one benching, but in this case you need to have them because you own the properties and you own them now. That's my recommendation as your fiscal officer.
Didn't we have this discussion, what, a meeting or two ago, that there were environmental concerns and we were going to look into that?
So yes, we are very much aware that there are environmental items that are going to be addressed. And I believe the sentiment of the Appropriations Committee, which we've discussed this at length, was we're fine with continuing to go forward and evaluate as the auditor has requested, though we feel we have extensive information on the majority of the properties already. And that those things can be done in tandem with the design because this is going to be a long process regardless. Additionally, it's going to take a year and a half to work through the design process just for the 30% design. Then you get through the 60, which is like the more detailed aspects of it. So we're 2 years out regardless. We're happy to continue to investigate to make folks feel more comfortable.
Are you confident, and maybe Jeremy or one of the engineers can comment on this, are you confident that whatever environmental issues are there are going to be able to be addressed?
Yes, I am.
By somebody other than us?
Well, it depends, right? So some of the properties in the area we own, which we would be responsible
Yes,
for.
in that
Others,
case, yes.
are being done, and per the memorandum of understanding with the Maumee Watershed Conservancy District and the Hancock County Commissioners, they would be responsible for the properties within the project area as they're doing the work. That's already been part of it, just as it was in phase one. Additionally, a benefit is that as we're doing this work, one, we could adjust and say, at Anchor Park, there are issues related to, okay, there was an oil spill on it that was minimal. It's safe for the continued use as it's been now. We're not breaking into the ground, so it's right. Or there are also a lot of brownfield grant programs out there through the state to be able to get them cleaned up. So yes, I'm confident that as we move forward with the information that we have, I feel comfortable that we're not going to see a significant huge issue, but that we're also going to be able to move forward with remediating anything that were to come up.
At the last appropriations, when we talked about doing the phase 1, phase 2, I said, how long was that going to take? And I thought it had like a really quick turnaround. Like we already started it, or on the properties that we own.
There are a significant number of phase 1s already completed, as well as a number of phase 2s. Those have already been kind of shared and mapped out. They're on the spreadsheet where it defines phase 1s were completed. On the properties that the auditor had requested additional environmental be done, we have been working through, the auditor and I worked to put out kind of that scope request. We have 3 firms that have responded. We're reviewing those, and I would expect to contract. It does take about a month and a half. So we'll have that information, but then, again, that's something that we can be doing in tandem because we have that information. We'd be able to continue to move forward. So that is not a significantly long
But we'll
process.
know from that in a month and a half. We're going to know if we have aliens coming out of the ground that we can't be moving dirt, or we're going to know that it's going to be a feasible project.
I would go back. First of all, it's a feasible project. The information and the aspects we would be doing, you could potentially reposition something or not break ground in a certain area. However, I'm pretty sure that based off of the fact that we have had these as parks and properties and items, we're not going to be having aliens coming out of the ground. The biggest identified concern was the Rainick property, which is currently in the process. In the next 2 weeks, will be completed because of the chromium. I know there's concerns with landfills and wastes and old river bench and all of that, but the folks that have evaluated this area also note, related based off of what we see on this parcel we believe to be this because of that. I want the message that continues to be put out to the public is that we are being irresponsible with moving forward on this, and I think that is not the case. We're being, I think the term that people use a lot is out of an abundance of caution, we're moving forward with additional reviews, and so I think that we're going over and above. We're investing money in these additional things. I understand the concerns, but I also think that we also have a lot of history in this area to be comfortable that we're not going to be digging up radioactive aliens.
So I think the word confident is great, but I can't throw money as a council person on the word confident. But I like hearing that you said in a month and a half, we're going to have our I's dotted and T's crossed to be able to move forward and know anything. So I would think at the end of the day, we should table this until we have that last piece to make sure we're not spending money too quickly and getting the cart before the horse.
I'm a little disappointed again to hear the mayor claim knowledge about environmental that she certainly does not have. At best, the statements are misleading. At worst, maybe deceitful. What we have here is a situation where there have been reports all the way up and down the river from east to west that were done because of the Corps engineers' involvement. Those phase 1s are clear. There are issues. Steve Wilson himself acknowledges that they have no idea what filled in the spots where Civitan Park is, where the river used to exist, and that we won't know until we start to dig unless we test. It's clear from people who know that it's wise to know what you're getting into before you turn dirt. The statement that if we find something, we'll deal with it then, forgets one thing. The deal with it then costs money. And all I'm saying is be patient so that we have a handle on how much money it costs. And to say we think we'll get brownfield, or we think we'll get this, or we think we'll get that, let's know. Let's be responsible with the taxpayers' dollars. Again, I'm all for doing the park. I'm all for moving forward. I'm excited about this. It's going to be wonderful for our community. Allow the due diligence and proper process to occur. And I think that's very, very important. And you have one other option here. You have one other option that you don't even know about. I spoke with bond counsel. Because you guys are in a position where you have the opportunity, in this case because you're a municipality, to put this issue out for a non-binding public vote as to how you should proceed. You could have the law director write some language that says, we would like to know, are you as a citizen of this community in favor of a full-blown park and development in this area or a green space, you can write it any way you want as a council. You can put it out to the public, and it's non-binding. You are not obligated to do it. And I share that with you because when this hit the paper, my office received an inquiry. We were requested, and I have done that, provided the full initiative petition information from the Brandman site, which I have been told is going to be used as a template for this site to go to the voters to restrict any investment of capital monies on this without a vote of the people. So if that happens and that initiative language is turned into my office in the next short period of time, as it's being told to me it's going to be, that it's being written by legal now, if that happens, you will have no choice as to what you do without votes. Maybe you need to slow down a little bit. I'm not telling you how to do your business, but you might want to consider involving the public a little bit more, as has been suggested in this room even tonight. Again, I don't presume to tell you what to do, but I can share with you what's happened in my perspective, and I can tell you got the cart before the horse. That's clear from where I sit. Thank you.
Again, I would just reiterate, I appreciate the auditor saying that, we can just wait a little bit and we'll get more information, but every meeting I have with him, he says that, and things kind of get drug along. And at this point, we're re-dotting I's and recrossing T's, and the insinuation that we're trying to be irresponsible or manipulative or deceptive is ridiculous. But what we're trying to say, and what the conversations, with council and all of the meetings we have, is we understand that in these properties, there are environmental risks based off of all the information we have. Regardless of whether we do it as part of this project or not, these are going to have to be addressed. We can do both moving forward with the very rudimentary early stages of moving this contract forward so that they can plan, get things together, we can start discussing elements while also doing these other things. And so I just want to be very clear. I in no way feel that we are doing this, rushing this, or being irresponsible, or not taking this seriously. I take this extremely seriously. This is a huge amount of money. That's why we need to step into the process so we can better start refining it and better go out and seek that support and better determine, the plan. Right now, somebody used the building a house. Yeah, we want to build a house, but now we need to choose the neighborhood and how we want the driveway to be positioned and what shingles we want on the roof and the light, all of those details, which we can't do until we enter into the contract because we're not the experts. So I just, some of these things, I feel like, we've been discussing it, and then every time we get into a meeting, they say, well, you're not discussing it enough. But right now, I don't think we can have any further, more detailed, engaging conversation with the public until we take this next step.
I think what I'm hearing from the public and not from the auditor as running this conversation between the two of you, the public, I think everybody on council gets either a phone call or an email, or when you're out at a restaurant, somebody makes a comment with regards to this park. You talk about the big dollar items like the bridge and the walkway and things like that. I think those are the concerns. When we are doing a design as a Mercedes instead of a Ford or a Chevy, as you said, right? We are putting things into this plan that we may not even need, or that the people in a whole don't want to see because of a fear of increasing of taxes down the road to be able to pay for things, and wanting to make sure that their tenants can pay their rent. People want to see something there. I want to see something there more than just green space. But irresponsible, you used that word a couple of times. It would be irresponsible of me to say, let's keep this cart moving before we're ready and spending this money, because it's roughly 10% of the cost of the entire project, which is $40 million. If we take it back to something more reasonable, and the citizens talk about, hey, we'd like to see you do something with the park area, the green space on Main Cross that's never had anything done that's a neighborhood park, or Riverside needs some updates. I think it's great that we're doing the restrooms at Swale and Rawson Park, but people want to see it spread around more than just in one spot. And it would be irresponsible until if we didn't have all of our EPA issues figured out. It would be, and if we should go back to Park and Rec or to committee and reevaluate our wants and needs, maybe the public would be more receptive to moving forward with something wonderful there, but on a smaller scale, I think is what's happening.
It is a connector. It is, we talk about downtown, and downtown is an easier spot for us to work with because obviously government's down here. We have all of the connections, but downtown's study after study after study shows your downtown is the heartbeat of your community, and go into any downtown and it's going to represent the vibrancy of your community. When we talk about creating a community that attracts professionals, this is exactly the thing we have to do to attract professionals. And at what level this investment is, I can't speak to that specific because that's what we need to refine. I am adamant, and I know the front page of the newspaper kind of surprised me. But that's exactly what I believe. This is a generational opportunity to invest in our community, to attract the professionals that want to be a part of this community, to create that gathering space, to make sure that we are creating recreation in our community. We're not Arizona, we're not Lake Erie, we're not the Rocky Mountains, so we have to create recreation in a very different way. And I think that the public will be very pleased as we work through the process for them to continue to engage and be able to provide feedback to help us determine what this space ends up looking like. It continues to be stated that it's $40 million, and that's not necessarily the case. We have to work through the process to refine it. That is if we buy all the things that we want at the Mercedes level and do that. And that's why we have to move forward to be able to work through that process.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to enter into a contract with Strand and Associates Incorporated to provide design and engineering services of the downtown recreation area Phase 2 benching of the Blanchard River, project number 319-13700, appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2023-071.
Second, Mr. Slough.
I would also like to note from our earlier discussion, we have not addressed traffic and pedestrian concerns, and we had a citizen come to our last meeting and speak. And then I'll remind everybody, we still have our EPA issues going on, and that the mayor has mentioned that the county is short on their flood dollars for the Norfolk Bridge project of the flood mitigation, and there is another $5 million that she seems to be earmarking that we might need above and beyond this project.
Mr. Wobser.
I'd like to make a motion to table this tonight until we get further information.
We have a motion to table. Ms. Frische? Is that a second?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. All those in favor of tabling the ordinance, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer? This is to table. Mr. Palmer?
Nay.
Mr. Russell?
Nay.
Mr. Slough?
Nay.
Ms. Warnecke?
Nay.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Nay.
Ms. Frische?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Nay.
I just wanted to make a statement. I know this came up with the rezoning on McPherson last time, and comes up frequently sometimes that we're not listening to citizens, and we do listen to them, but there's always two sides to a story. And although there was only Tom Schindeldecker here tonight, Ms. Frische had mentioned going out to dinner or wherever, and I've been to meetings at 50 North and Church and wherever, and I have heard a lot of positive comments about the park, how it will be wonderful for the community, and please go ahead and get this seen through, and boy, I can't wait to get this started. So, you know, it's like the vote that happened with the election last week. There's two sides to every issue. And I just want to make a statement that no is not the only thing that we're hearing on council.
Ms. Frische?
I think if council, the majority wants to move forward with this, I would make a motion to amend the ordinance to remove the declaring of an emergency on this piece of legislation. So if the public does want to do something, they have that option. So that's a motion.
Mr. Wobser?
Second.
All those in favor of the amendment as proposed, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Palmer?
Nay.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnecke?
Nay.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Nay.
Ms. Frische?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
And Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
3 nay.
The ordinance as amended, we are still under discussion.
This is a great project. I think this needs to be done. We need to move forward with this. However, it's not time yet to move forward with it. We need a couple more things to be done. We're less than 30 days away from getting that done, and we can move forward. I'm going to vote no on this because I think we need to wait. We could always reintroduce it at a later time. That's where I'm going with this, and we could take our time and get everything else put in place and then reintroduce.
I'm going to be echoing Councilman Wobser on that and kind of rebut Beth's statement. I have not heard anybody that is against the project. I think we're lumping things together where everybody wants to move forward, but what that looks like and what that cost is where the discussion is. And I think we just need to, again, wait till we're ready. So I'm going to be following Councilman Wobser.
Well, I would just make a statement to that this ordinance is not saying let's build a park for $40 million. This ordinance is to get the plan so we know what's going to be coming. That's why we need to get it started.
Ms. Frische?
And if we wait 30 to 45 days, we'll know if spending $1.5 million to get started was a smart move if we have all our other pieces put together.
The genesis of this idea has been around for quite a long time. You could see the opportunity there. And then as the citizens, I echo Beth's comments. I have received so many folks, the input from so many folks, including emails in support of this project and wanting to go forward to see what the next steps are. Additionally, in our strategic planning process, I heard over and over again citizens saying, talking about the riverfront and recreational opportunities, and it was so much so in the strategic planning that we just passed. This has been talked to in items 2.7, 5.3, and 6.3. 3 items addressed specifically of our strategic plan talk to this, and for that reason, and all the citizens' input that I've received, and because I agree with Brian's comments too. We're in a fight for workers, and one of the ways that fight is done now is with recreational infrastructure. This project is vital. The next step is to get more detailed plans, and that can happen in conjunction with environmental review.
My comment will come across very rude, but I'm going to say it anyway, right? Grant brought up strategic plan and marking off some numbers. Beth talked about the warm fuzzies that she hears. Brian is for the project and a couple others. Everybody, again, is for it. But my question for you is, did all the people that tell you that they're for the project, did they tell you to jump the start of the race before we had all of our information? Or would they have told you to wait 30 to 45 days?
I'm going to have to vote no. Constituents voted for me to represent them. I can see myself that some council people don't represent the people that voted for them, and I think we ought to take that into consideration. It's not what myself thinks. I represent the 6th Ward.
the comments, maybe it is better to reconsider a tabling of this at this time, so we can give it more consideration. So I'll make that as a motion to table.
Second, Mr. Wobser. All those in favor of tabling, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Russell,
Aye.
Mr. Slough,
Aye.
Ms. Warnecke,
Nay.
Mr. Wobser,
Aye.
Mr. Ballman,
Nay.
Ms. Frische,
Aye.
Mr. Greeno,
Aye.
Mr. Hellman,
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer,
My better judgment.
and Mr. Palmer.
Nay.
Motion to table is adopted.